videos. The AusBiz COB is the key stuff you need to know about the day in business and finance.
Hello, welcome to the COB this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Juliette Sarli. Great to have your company as we continue to monitor the fallout over the conflict in the Middle East, particularly with President Trump indicating that the fighting could go on for a number of weeks. Of course, there's a lot of pricing, particularly amongst commodities, what it means for crude oil and this flight to safety as well, with the bids that we did see in gold, although of course silver pulling off somewhat. Let's have a look at where the local market is tracking. And unlike yesterday when we held up relatively well, today we haven't really quite been buffered the same amount by those big gains that you saw in those energy players, with investors coming in and taking some profits off the table today. We saw as well falls coming through in the heavyweights BHP and Rio, but I should point out that coal has had its biggest rise in 3 years. Elsewhere though, broad losses, and even some of those strong performers, the likes of Drone Shield of course, which rose yesterday on that defence play coming off. So it does look like some of the strong performers are being hit by profit takers today. So that takes us to our themes of the day, and it really has been about these conflict concerns hitting the overall market. We also, of course, have still got a few companies coming through with earnings, and Life 360 pivoting into the black, its first ever profit. It's really pushing into, of course, AI. We had a great chat with the CEO, Lauren Antonoff, earlier, which you can catch online. Then we started the day hearing from Michelle Bullock, the RBA governor, who was speaking at an AFR event in Sydney, really pushed on what the uncertainty in the Middle East means for global inflation, and whether or not that means that we're likely to see a rate hike more sooner than we were expecting. The governor going on to say that markets have been fairly orderly in the wake of the Middle East conflict, but she's indicated that any further spike to inflation could, of course, lead to a March rate hike. And let's have a little listen to what Governor Bullock indicated.
The other possibility is that if this is a very prolonged conflict and there is a very, very elevated and lengthy rise in energy prices, this ultimately is going to feed through into economic activity. And I think uncertainty, if people are paying more for their petrol, they've got less money to spend on other things, this might impact consumption. If businesses are uncertain, that might impact investment. So all these things might impact the economy.
And Governor Bullock also defended the RBA's decision to raise rates last month, going on to say, of course, that every meeting is live and the board will be looking to whether or not it needs to act more quickly. I should point out that the market, though, only pricing in a 24% chance of a quarter point rate rise this month, the meeting in the middle on the 17th of March. Rates, though, fully priced to increase to 4.1% in May, and could be at 4.3%, so pretty much where we were a year ago by the end of the year if you have a look at what the money market is telling us. Let's get back to the equity market and have a look at the energy players, which are looking okay, but certainly not the gains that you saw yesterday. Santos was one of the stocks on the call today. Some really interesting commentary coming through from Michael Wayne from Medallion Financial and Sean Hickman from Market Matters. You can find that, of course, on the website. Having a look at gold as well. Golden stocks coming off their recent run today. Newmont was down by 2.4%, Northern Star off by 3%. So somewhat of profit taking after those huge gains that we saw coming through yesterday. And then in terms of the tech players, let's have a look at where we're tracking there. Life 360, an interesting one because it did actually initially rise on its result before being heavily sold off, down 15.4%. In other news that we followed, Rio Tinto down 2% despite securing up to almost 14 million US dollars from Canada for a gallium metal research and development project. Capstone Copper saw its adjusted earnings hit a record in the fourth quarter. The market didn't like the guidance, so shares down almost 18%. We touched on Life 360 there. Stockland also under pressure despite expanding its portfolio into hyperscale data centres. And have a look at Magellan Financial. This was a ripper today, eyeing its strongest session in nearly 20 years on that merger with Barrenjoey, which I should point out as well, we mentioned on the call, could be a little bit of a headwind there for Macquarie perhaps. Well, let's get back to Life 360, reporting that annual net profit for the first time, making nearly $151 million for 2025, with income boosted by a one-off non-cash tax benefit of $118 million, and that follows a loss of $4.5 million a year earlier. The family tracking app platform saying monthly active users rose 20% over the year to nearly 96 million. And we spoke to CEO Lauren Antonoff about Life 360's push into advertising.
We've started in the advertising world just a couple of short years ago, and we have a real advantage of having a platform where we have data that we understand our customers very well. We understand where they're going. We have all these sort of capabilities to be able to measure things, but we didn't have the kind of reach that Nativo, this platform that we recently acquired, that reach that they had. What they bring to us is this incredible reach of both advertisers and publishing platforms. And they bring a tech stack that allows us to create a walled garden where we can deliver the full stack advertising capabilities in a privacy safe way and really let us accelerate our advertising business.
And I mentioned we discussed it on the call. Michael Wayne from Medallion Financial, Sean Hickman from Market Matters.
Operationally, the company still is delivering some outstanding outcomes. It's just the valuation is very, very lofty and doesn't leave much room for a sentiment re-rating. So yeah, look, at the right time, this could well be a buy, but for the moment, I wouldn't go near it.
So a sell rather than a hold if you had it?
I think so.
The results that came out today would have been probably taken very positively a year or two ago, but we are in a very different environment. It's a high growth, high value stock. AI disruption is only one part of the risks ahead of it. People like Apple, they've got products that are very similar as well. Someone could easily come across and just have a real go at them if they so wished. So I wouldn't call it a sell. We actually believe the AI disruption trade is very mature, coming to an end, and some of the quality stocks that have been sold off a lot are probably quite interesting at these levels. So I would call it a hold.
You've worked hard for your money all your life. Now your money needs to work hard for you. Whether you're building, transferring, or drawing down, the right information makes all the difference. At Ausbiz Retire, you'll find the latest news and insights from trusted experts all in one place. Ausbiz Retire is powered by RAN, retirement income done differently.
Let's have a quick look at what is on overnight then in terms of what investors are going to be looking out for. We've got EU CPI estimates, also the UK annual budget and US earnings for CrowdStrike and Target. Tomorrow, locally, quarterly GDP data, of course, the big one, of course, in terms of what we're going to expect more broadly from the RBA as well. We are tracking down our guest. We may be having a little bit of difficulty in terms of getting him, so I might just tell you where the market is as we hit the match off there, because it does look like we have closed lower by 1.4%, 9,073 points on the S&P ASX 200. We touched quite a lot there on Life 360, which was the bottom performer. It looks like it's actually closed even lower than what we were talking about before, down 18%. Pro Medicus also coming under pressure. It was down by almost 8%. Some of the other laggards include Liontown Resources, down 9.3%, Neuron Pharmaceuticals and Capstone Copper, while the positive stocks today included Victory Metals, up more than 15%, Waratah Minerals, Cobra, and I think these might be some of the small caps, to be honest, but I don't know any of those stocks. Victory Metals up 15% in the small end of town. I'll tell you what was going up in the big end of town, and that was Magellan Financial. We touched on that, up by more than 20%. On that Barrenjoey merger, New Hope, as we saw coal stocks there hit a 3-month high. New Hope was up by 7%. Yancoal also looking good, up 4.5%. Light and Wonder up by more than 3%. And Ampol was up by more than 3%. All right, Well, let's have another look at where the market is. And as we mentioned, it has not been a great day for the overall market. Looking like we're going to be down 1.4%, 9,073. Unfortunately, sometimes tech gets the better of us. It doesn't look like our guest has joined us, so a very short and sweet COB today. We'll be back tomorrow from 9:45 a.m. Eastern.